Thank you so much, Marco, for having me again on the NOAH stage. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's a great pleasure to have two friends of mine here as well. I'm an investor, venture capitalist out of Switzerland, out of Zurich, born and raised in Zurich, actually. And Marco mentioned it. I'm looking for unicorns, early stage. And in the year 2000, I invested into a company called Mobileye that today is a $30 billion company. And the founder, Amnon, told me about AI. I had no idea what AI is. It's 23 years ago. And, but Mobileye became the biggest success in startups that Israel ever had, I think. Yeah. That's true, right? The largest. And when Amnon told me that he found a second genius, Ori, and that he's investing in his company, I was, of course, extremely interested. So I think we're indeed very privileged to have Ori here that will tell us a lot about the state of AI in AI21 and in the world. And then a few years ago, I also was very privileged to meet young Sohn. And I think it's a great pleasure to have Young here. Young is the most knowledgeable person in the world when it comes to chips. And that's not me that's saying it. That's an official award that he got a few years ago. He used to be the chairman of Samsung. He just became, and that's not even really official yet, but he gave me the permission to mention it today. He just became the chairman of Samsung Semiconductors. He's, of course, also chairman of Harman Kardon. He has a fund called Walden Catalyst that is investing not only in the US, in the Silicon Valley, where he's based and very familiar since decades, but also in Europe and also in Switzerland, with already many investments in Switzerland. So we are definitely going to talk about the big elephant in the room. How does AI going to make money with having to pay all those expensive chips that Young Son is representing. So, but enough of me talking. Maybe you guys can introduce yourself. I know Ori was a startup founder before that, twice, with very successful exits. Maybe you can start, and then we go to Young, and then we ask you the questions.
Sure. So first of all, hi everyone. It's really an honor, and I'm excited to be here and present AI21. So a little bit of background about myself. As Daniel mentioned, this is my second startup company. The first one was an analytics platform that was built and serving telecom companies. And so that company was acquired. And back in 2017, my partner and I joined forces together to start AI21. We were really excited about where AI is heading. It was just about the time where the famous Transformer paper was released at Google. We really understood, we really had this foresight of where AI is heading technologically, and we were passionate about building a deep tech AI company in Israel. And so the company has been through a long journey, 6 years now. And we're one of the first foundational model builders in the world. We've released our first foundation model in 2021 called Jurassic. And we built an application on top of it called WordTune, a very popular reading and writing assistant app, and a platform that can serve enterprises called AI21 Studio. So I'll share more insights about where AI is heading in terms of technology and the market, but I think I'll pass it to Young to speak about the underlying infrastructure and chips.
So great to see you, Danny and Ori. I've been coming here now for several years. My first time in NOAH. Great. Thank you for hosting, Marco. It's a privilege to be here with so many interesting startups and investors. We are focused on really data economy. So if you think about where we are today, everything is possible because of the large amount of data that's available, either structured, unstructured. And I've been now long enough to see the different waves of technologies. And I was involved as a microprocessor designer at Intel at the 80s. There was the first big wave of PC, and then the second wave of internet. And then being at Samsung, we've seen the mobile wave, as well as, of course, cloud that enabled many of new applications. And AI is clearly not just a hype, but I think it's real. It's going to change all of what we do. But AI by itself cannot go anywhere without data infrastructure. So where I'm focused, really where we're focused is enabling data infrastructure that can be able to migrate much of this large data to make sense out of it. And this is why, if you think about today, who makes money? It's actually not an application yet. Many of you are trying to make money, but the reality is it's really very few companies that make money. It's people like NVIDIA, people like Samsung that are providing the memory architecture so that the data can be able to flow. And then cloud players. And if you think about NVIDIA's H100 allocation last quarter, which is about 500,000 modules, where did they go? 150 of them went to companies like Google. The other 150K probably went to Microsoft. The other 150K went to AWS. The point is, it's very highly concentrated game, and there are many companies trying to make something out of it. But today, it's really an infrastructure game. That's where the profit is and where this money is.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So what I think everybody in the audience would like to know, what is the state of the AI landscape? We talk always about OpenAI. Everybody knows about them, but there's others out there. There's Mistral, there's Coherent, there's a few others. And so where do you see the playing field right now, and what is your part of the cake? Where do you see yourself in comparison to the others?
Great question. So really, I think most people realize it's not going to be one model to rule them all. It's going to be around choice, because there's so many. This area of generative AI is so broad. It's going to affect us as businesses and as persons, and several models will have their advantages, and so that's why it's probably a broader play than a single vendor providing these models. And we're seeing this in reality. Like, customers are currently experimenting with almost all the models out there and realizing which model best fit to the use case they're trying to solve. And so we think this is going to be a very broad play where there'll be several markets, but not a lot of players. Not a lot of players will actually build these foundational technology that will power the applications on top of it. So I think we're at the phase of massive experimentation right now. Lots of big enterprises coming with hundreds of use cases and experimenting with this technology, understanding where can it actually work and where can it actually impact their business. So it's really early days. Our approach, our unique approach to the market is we're saying, we are building these general purpose foundation models because they're essential for experimentation. But in reality, specifically if you look at the enterprise market, most companies don't care about open-ended chat systems. They look at very highly specific use cases that they're trying to solve. And the good approach to tackle this is not to go through the general purpose foundation models, it's to go through highly specialized models. It's called SLMs. There's LLMs and SLMs. And the idea is that you have models that are really good at particular tasks. So for example, you'll have a model that is great at summarizing financial reports, or a model that is great at generating text for product descriptions in retail. So once you have these specialized models that can give performance guarantees, you can actually, as an enterprise, you can actually feel more comfortable deploying this in production. And you ask where the landscape is right now and where it's heading. Right now, we're still in the experimentation phase. We think that in 24 and 25, we'll see a shift towards production workload. People would want to see these models actually perform in production. And they will require really high level of reliability. If you think about it, again, in the enterprise, the cost of doing mistake is pretty high. So the idea here, that the way we are tackling it is from a very practical point of view. We want to provide these models that are really specialized and good at performing particular tasks.
Excellent. So Silicon Valley being the center of the world for this kind of investments, and where OpenAI is, and I know you also have an office in France where Mistral is. What is it that made you decide to invest into an Israeli company, of all places, Young?
Yeah, so actually the truth is, Yoav, the founder of AI21, visited me when he began his project 6 years ago. And I'm going to be just honest, I didn't get it back first meeting. I just said, you know,
welcome to the club.
So I just said, you know, maybe we can re-chat. And then 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to lead the round. And of course, the truth is I also knew the other founder, the Amnon, who was founder of Mobileye. So knowing the different players and knowing the team behind it gave me a lot of comfort. And the you know, really the transformer that we talked about earlier changed the equation of AI journey from linear to exponential. And this is why large language model is possible today. And then when that happened, all of a sudden we realized this could be big. And then we were looking at what are the best options. And frankly, I think what I really liked about at the time is the fact they are eating their own dog food. What does that mean? They were actually applying application. I don't know whether you have used their product Walden. I was using it, and it's helping me to improve my writing, improve my expression. And I realized that they are actually not only doing large language models, but they also have an application. And they have a revenue to prove that. And then also the fact is, it's one of the best teams in the world, because I knew that through Amnon. He always had the best teams in AI. He was one of the pioneers. So this connection was very much reinforcing each other. And so I was very happy to lead, despite there are a few other options we're looking at. So thank you.
So thanks. I have another question to you, Ori. What are the biggest myths or misconceptions related to foundation models? And what are the biggest, what has surprised you the most working with those LLMs?
So first of all, so many nice words from Daniel and Yang. I hope I can get it in writing for my wife.
We'll tell her when you come skiing next time to some rights, okay?
Sure. So I think the biggest misconceptions are people relate to these models as humans. They humanify these models. They try to interact as they were humans. And I think these models are extremely powerful. But we should also understand their limitations and what's their limitations and and where are the places that they may fail. And so I think that's That's one part. The second part is more technical. People think about these models as reasoning engines. And I think that's partially true. It's pretty impressive to see how much reasoning processes these models are capable of. Like, if you take a problem that needs, let's say, several steps in order to solve, these models are actually capable and demonstrate the ability to solve these complicated problems. But they're not reliable enough. They're still statistical models. And this is something I think people speak about reasoning as a magical ability of these models. And the truth is, you need to complement these models with more classical machinery to compensate for their statistical nature. So you, for example, you would want to conduct math. If there's a mathematical problem, you probably want to have it solved in a more classical fashion. You want the neural net to offload this problem to a more classical computational framework. So I think these are the two biggest misconceptions around generative AI models these days.
So by the way, if you want to test WordTune from AI21 Labs, you can download it and use it as your grammar corrector on your iPhone. Of course, it also works on the web and with the Chrome extension. It's a great product. I use it daily almost, and my wife uses it daily, so that's even a better thing. So the last question I wanted to, or not the last question, but the most important question for me to understand that I wanted to ask both of you, and I want to start with the investor's perspective. How are we going to make money with that? I mean, the hardware costs a fortune, and everybody is putting out LLMs out there for free to test. And how is that ever going to make money with all those competitors out there?
I think we are in a very early stage of the, in baseball analogy, I don't know if it's an American analogy, but like first inning, right? Very early. And I think that in the beginning of any big cycle, typical winners are going to be enablers. So you know that NVIDIA has become a $1 trillion market cap company from a gaming GPU company because of their vector processing that was critical. As much importance is also the memory companies that are enabling the whole large amount of memory, and networking companies that are also backbone of those enablers. So you will see like what happened to, I call gold rush in 19th century, the San Francisco. The people that made money is the one that are made Levi's and shovels. And frankly, that's where the action is in terms of enabling, because without actually those tools, you cannot run these models today. And it's very, very, very expensive, and it's very power hungry. So I think there's a huge innovation opportunity to improve power much better and much cheaper and much more targeted. We're doing a much more brute force approach in our modeling. And I think what Oli was mentioning, the targeted specialized model is going to be evolving. But right now, everybody's playing with what's out there. And I believe that applications are also going to get better. Large number of trials, but very few deployed today. And I've seen some examples of Swiss companies here that are working on fintech and unique, legal applications, like Deep Judge. So I see very much interesting companies that are making productivity to improve, but it's an early stage of engagement, and very exciting to see how we can be able to use this large data to make more sense out of these data. And that's going to help us to improve a lot of solutions that we couldn't do it before, including medicine, research, materials development. So I'm very optimistic that we're in the right curve. And a lot of these things will require even more and smarter, lower power compute, which is an opportunity.
So to put it in perspective, I mean, you just raised a couple $100 million at 1.4 billion valuation. It's not the 90 billion that we know from some other company, but luckily, I think. But I mean, you still have to, I mean, we have to talk serious business here. Where do you see your income stream?
Right. I think the next few years will be the years of the enterprise adopting these models and technologies. And I really wanted to echo what Yang said. I think it's going to be, most of the value will be accrued in the enabling technologies that actually makes this technology more accessible for enterprises. And I think enterprises, they have a lot of productivity enhancing use cases, but they also have a lot of revenue growth enablers using this technology. If you think about how these models can change the way businesses are operating, I think it's going to be huge. It's going to be it's not just the hype that we're seeing. A lot of pressure from the board level these days to adopt this technology. I think it's everyone understands. It's like the early days of the internet, that this is going to fundamentally change the way we do business. So I'm fairly optimistic that because there's so much value there, it could be captured effectively by enabling technologies.
Super. Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time. I could talk the whole morning with you guys. Super interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.